I discovered I was dyslexic in high school. I did Hebrew in primary school, and I just thought I was confusing Hebrew and French and English all the time. And actually, Hebrew helped me a lot with dyslexia. And when I stopped doing Hebrew, it became more of an issue. So I understand what you need with needing to be constantly motivated, and I need to touch. That's why I'm in acupuncture, because I get to learn while I'm doing things. And I also did a hotel management degree in a CEGEP in Quebec, and that was a 3 years program. What I like about that option, and I'm not saying I'm an expert in education, but it's definitely something that I'd like to look into, is that you get 2 years of pre-university training and an extra year in a professional degree. So I ended up doing a certificate in marketing at McGill in continuing ed later. It still opened the door. As I get older and more mature and more curious, that doesn't mean that I'm stuck in a trade either. But it was easier for me when I was young to do a trade. The other thing that I've seen in Quebec that could be applicable here, and I'm sure there's things in other provinces that need to be looked into, is an extra year of high school. So in Quebec, it's 5 years of high school, but you can do a 6-year program to do welding, to do préposé bénéficiaire. It's pretty much an assistant to a nurse. Medical secretary is a program, refrigeration. The list is never ending. In fact, my own mother, after being a diet technician for 30 years, decided to go back in a high school program and do her medical secretary because she enjoyed it. So they're very accessible programs.
Well, I believe not all children are equal. Not all children are going to be college graduates. The liberal bureaucrats want everybody to be a college graduate and try and push that ideal and say that your kid's not as worthy as other kids if they're not college graduates. I don't agree with that. But we do need more trade programs in schools. Some kids don't want to go to college. Some kids want to be a plumber or electrician or get work experience, work with a company and use it as a credit in school. We're not funding these programs in school right now as much as we should be, and I think we need to do that.
Just in response to the woman, your child sounds very much like my child, and he attended Carson Graham and wasn't suited for the mainstream academic program. And Carson Graham offers chef and training programs. There was hairdressing and automotive. It's the beginning. It's not the full menu of what should be available for kids that don't care for the academic world because of some, not quite, you couldn't describe it as a learning disability, but had issues with academic coursework. And so I think Carson Graham sets a pretty good blueprint for what we could do, but we just have to do more of it and do a better job of providing work training or skills training opportunities for kids, catch them earlier perhaps. The other thing I would say about Carson Graham, which was really exceptionally important for my child who wasn't really cut out for the regular classroom environment, was a very strong sports program where they could excel because they were boys. They could be mentored through sports and develop a whole lot of discipline and camaraderie and learn an awful lot. And it tended to be a good combination of the two. But I think everything flows from a government who is committed to public education and makes it a priority. These decisions shouldn't be, in some ways they're sort of no-brainers. They're common sense decisions that need to be funded, and that means the funding priorities have to reflect these values. That means you have to take money away from we've talked about mega projects, but let's think about the $1 billion in Olympic security funding that we're going to have to find for 2 weeks. I can think of a lot of things we could do with $1 billion. We've got a overruns on the convention centre, we've got the gateway, it goes on and on. There's obviously money there, but they've always found other excuses not to put the money into the human capital, I would suggest, and that has to be reversed, and that's what this election is about, and that's why it's such an important election.
I just want to make you aware that the automotive program and the chef training program here at Carson are in jeopardy with the new construction.
They shouldn't
so that's
be.
part of the
It's
problem right
terrible
there.
if that's the
We're
case.
losing the little bit of trade that this school has now. We're getting less. We're not getting more.
Ongoing concern. Teachers know that many people living below the poverty line cannot find affordable housing, and there certainly are many families living in this very community, this very riding. I teach in this riding, who are below the poverty line. If elected, how would you ensure adequate, affordable housing for all British Columbians? And we're going to start with Michelle.
There's a statistic somewhere about housing in the Green Book. But, so we're guaranteeing to put a percentage of some tax on housing, but that's not the real issue. We need to change the way we think about housing. We did our campaign launch at Quayside Community. It's a co-housing community on the North Shore. And what co-housing is that people have smaller units, but they share common space. They have a big kitchen that they share or that you can use on your own if you're having family over. They have a guest room that they share, a laundry room, a garden, and they work together. They have an amazing project there at having zero waste. There are about 35 people living there, and they have 2 garbage bins that go out a week. So the housing, we need to look at it differently. Right now, people are building huge houses on lots, and we're not trying to create density, which creates local businesses in the area, and that don't create community. If it takes 10 minutes to walk to 5 neighbors down, you can't have a sense of community. But it also needs funding. And the municipal level has a lot to do to make better housing locally. Right now, the problem in downtown Vancouver is that you have people from all over Canada that end up there. As much as I'm pro-municipal funding, that's actually a federal issue, as far as I'm concerned. But in our community, we need to enable our municipal governments to find the solutions that will work for us here.
That's probably a very tough question, particularly in North Vancouver, where a lot of the people, because of the affordability in North Vancouver, are moving, in fact, to other places where they can't afford to live. And there is no question, North Vancouver is, in fact, getting more expensive. People have moved out to the Chilliwack area and beyond. How you try to get government to pay for people who can't afford to live in a particular area is a very difficult task. I mean, we can, and of course, afford to pay for a child's education, but it's very difficult to try and find and pay for someone who is just living in the area, and especially with children. It is difficult, and I'm not sure if I have the solution to that. Maybe somebody else does.